What up? What up? This is Mr. T. Thank you for checking out my YouTube channel at Mr. T Do Numbers. And this is my lesson on place value. All right. So I'm gonna teach your kids a basic lesson on place value and how you can understand decimals. All right. So I feel it's very important that I actually teach you what the word place value means. All right. So if you break it down word by word, the word place means a certain spot, right? If you have a place for your certain things, then you put it in a certain spot, right? So value is how much it is worth. How much it is worth. So if you talk about place value, you're saying that when a number is put in a certain spot, you need to figure out how much it is worth if you put them together. All right. So most teachers teach about place value charts, right? When they talk about decimals. So what I want to do, I want to break down decimals for you. The main part of a decimal is the decimal point, right? It separates the decimal point. It's like a split screen. I tell my kids a decimal point like the split screen, right? Because they like to play Call of Duty. They like to play all these games with split screens. Well, your decimal point is your split screen. On the left side of the decimal point, you have the whole numbers. These are all your wholes, all right? On the right side of the decimal point, you have all your parts. All right? Now, you know the difference because the whole numbers, if you see them in words, they just end in S. Ones, tens, hundreds, they just end in S. But the parts actually end in THS. Those identify the part side that you're dealing with when it comes to decimals. All right. So real quick to recap, the decimal point, wherever it is, it separates the whole side from the part side. All right. So for instance, if you have $1.25, well, you have one whole dollar and you have 25 parts trying to make up the next dollar. All right. So that's $1.25, one whole, 25 parts of the next whole. All right. So if we want to get into place value, I'm going to draw another decimal point and I'm going to work with the wholes first. The closest place value spot to the decimal point on the left side is the ones place. All right. Now, in the ones place, with $1.25, I have $1. $1 bill. It's in the ones place. All right. So the closest spot to the decimal point on the whole side, on the left side, is the ones. Then the next spot is the tens, 10 wholes. All right. And then for this example, I'm going to just go to the hundreds. Hundreds, right? But based on our base 10 system, 10 more will be 1,000, 10 more will be 10,000, 10 more will be 100,000, and on and on and on in the whole number direction on the left, right? Now, on the part side, you're also going base 10, but you're going to the right. So if this is ones, then this means 10 parts right here. So I write the word tens, but I have to put the parts on the end. So it's tenths. That means whatever number is in the whole number spot, if you take that, if you take one whole and break it into 10 parts, you'll get this place value right here. Right? So after tens is hundreds with a TH. Hundredths. So if you take one whole and break it into 100 parts, that number will go right here in this place value spot. All right. And then you have thousandths with a THS. What that means is if I have one whole and I break it into 1,000 parts, that place value spot would be right here. All right. So this is your basic place value chart for elementary. This will suffice for 5th grade. 4th grade normally stops at hundreds. 5th grade normally stops at thousands, right? When you get to middle school, you'll have 10,000s after that and stuff like that. All right. But the main thing here is that you see that the decimal point separates the whole numbers from the parts. All right. Now from there, I'm going to put some values to it, right? And I always like to start with money. So I always like to say, hey, one whole dollar is just like having a $1 bill, right? 10 whole dollars is just like having a $10 bill. And 100 whole dollars is like having a $100 bill. Right? Now, if I take one whole dollar and break it into 10 parts, that will create dimes, which is 10 cents. If I take one whole dollar and create 100 parts, then that will create pennies, which is 1 cent. All right? And I like to tell my children that they have bits for thousands, right? But of course, a bit is too small to be in the monetary system anyway, because you would need 1,000 of those parts just to equal $1. All right? So right here, I want to really explain the base 10 system. I want you to understand that the base 10 system is our place value system, which means that I can take 10 of the small ones and put them together to get one big size going to the left. All right? So what that means is if I get 10 bits together, I can trade it in for a penny. So bits times 10 will equal a penny. A penny times 10. So when I collect 10 pennies, I can trade it in for a dime. 10 cents, a dime. When I get 10 of those times 10, I can trade it in for $1. $1 times 10, I can trade it in for a $10 bill. $10 bills, if I get 10 of them, I can trade them in for $100 bill. And if I get 10 of those hundreds, I have $1,000. And if I have 10 of 10,000s, I can put them together and make 10,000. So on and on and on. This is the base 10 system. I can take 10 small units and combine them to equal the value of the next unit going to the left, getting bigger. All right? Now, it also works in reverse. See, right now I'm composing 10. I'm putting 10 together. I can also break down 10. I can start with a $100 bill and I can divide it by 10 or I can get a tenth of that $100 bill. That's $10. I can take a $10 bill, get a tenth of that. A tenth of that $10 bill is $1 bill. I can take a $1 bill. If I'm trying to find what is a tenth of that $1 bill, a tenth of that $1 bill is a dime. I can take a dime. What is a tenth of that dime? A tenth of a dime is a penny, right? And a penny broken into 10 pieces is what I would tell my children is worth a bit, right? So this is your base 10 system. This is your structure system. This is the numbering system that we use in our world, right? I'm gonna put it at the bottom. This is your base 10 system, right? That means 10 small ones can come together and make the next big one, or take one big one and decompose it and break it down into 10 small ones. Base 10 system, right? Now, kids are used to dealing with the flats and the base 10 blocks, right? They have the flats, they have the rods, and they have the units. And most kids think that a flat is 100, a rod is 10, and a unit is 1. That's not correct. A flat is a flat. It's just called a flat. A rod is just called a rod, and a unit is called a unit. I can move them anywhere in this system and still make it work. So I'm going to give you 2 examples. In 5th grade, they say, I want one flat to represent one whole. So if I could put a flat right here, it's going to represent one whole, right? The flat is in the one whole spot, right? Now from here, I'll say, take this one whole flat and break it into 10 parts. Well, everybody knows if you take a flat and you break it apart, it becomes a rod. Right? It makes sense in the base 10 system. Well, if I take a flat and I break it into 100 pieces or 100 parts, well, that becomes a unit. Right? Makes sense in the base 10 system. You are decomposing it. You are taking a tenth of that. Take a flat, a tenth of it is a rod. A tenth of a rod is a unit. Now, in some 5th grade problems, you'll have a unit broken into 10 pieces to represent thousands if the flat is equal to one whole. So you'll see a unit. You'll see this unit, but you'll see it decomposed into 10 pieces. All right? And then you'll see them shade one piece. Well, this one piece is representing the thousandths place. All right? It's just taking a unit and decomposing it into a tenth. And each one is worth a thousandth. Right? So I want to show you that a flat does not mean 100. A rod does not mean 10. And a unit don't mean 1. There's no number tied to them. It's whatever you assign to be one whole, then decompose the other ones in the base 10 system right behind it. All right? So my last example, I'll say, I want the rod to represent one whole. So if the rod is one whole, I can take one whole rod and break it into 10 parts, and it'll create units. Right? And then I could take this unit and decompose it into 10 parts. And now this little real micro piece right here will be hundreds now. Hundredths. Because it fits in the base 10 system. All right? So remember, the base 10 system is 10 of these small ones can be put together to make the next biggest size, or you could take one big one and break it down into 10 of the next smallest size. All right. This Mr. T do numbers. This the base 10 system. It's a basic explanation of the place value chart. Peace.